Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Andy Triolo, and I am the text team leader for IndiMarin. And as people are coming into the meeting, we realize that some of you may have found us through a mobilized link and not from our IndiMarin volunteer squad. So just in case you're unfamiliar with who we are, we have a slide up on screen to let you know a little bit about us. We are located in Northern California, just north of San Francisco, and we, like so many indivisibles, started in early 2017 after the 2016 election, and we've been just growing ever since. Let's see, Betsy, next slide. So welcome to our introduction to texting. If you have a minute, you could drop a note in the chat to say hello and where you're from and, maybe what kind of work you're doing and how you heard about us would be great. I see we still have a couple of people in the waiting room. That's fine, Betsy.
Okay.
Next slide. So here's our agenda. It's a really simple one. I'll talk a little bit about how texting as a campaign tactic came to be and how we arrived at this moment in time. I will go over how it works, and then I'll do a live demonstration on screen working with Gavin Newsom's Campaign for Democracy. During that time, which sometimes has a little lag time, we'll hear some testimonials from a couple of our team members who are also as enthusiastic as I am about Campaign for Democracy. And then we'll share links about how you can take your next steps to get up and rolling. And then we'll do the Q&A at the very end. I do want to point out, just in case, if you are an experienced texter, if you text, regularly, or even if you have texted in the past, this presentation may be below your pay grade, but feel free to hang on anyway and to participate and listen in if you like. But this is really intended to be an introduction to texting for people who don't really know what political texting looks like. Next slide. Okay, so texting is a 21st century campaign tool. Next slide. Traditional campaign tools, originally, the earliest ones were print materials and then canvassing, walking around your neighborhoods, talking to neighbors. Television and radio got into the picture, and then phone banking. Does anybody remember phone banking when you used an actual telephone? I do. Next slide. Then in 2018, Gavin Newsom and Beto O'Rourke, two individuals running individual campaigns here in California and in O'Rourke in Texas, started using texting outreach as a means of promoting their messaging and garnering support. With each campaign cycle since then, it's grown in terms of its scope and its reach. In 2020, it was getting out the vote, but also organizing, not just with individual campaigns, but state parties or other organizations and unions became involved. In 2021, it was used to organize, to conduct advocacy campaigns, to reach out for voter registration. And then also, we saw with natural disasters, using texting and texting lists were used as a rapid response means to contact potential victims and reach out to let them know that we could offer help. Next slide. So texting I am just so enthusiastic about this tactic because no other tool lets you reach so many voters so efficiently. You can reach literally thousands of voters in less than an hour. And although you don't engage with all of those people, the studies show that more than 90% of those initial outgoing messages are read. And, if you're in advertising or marketing, what's important is to get the message in front of eyeballs. And texting does do that. People are glued to their phones and they see what the message that's come across, whether they choose to reply or if they just delete. It's also been shown that texting is most effective in getting out the vote and recruiting volunteers. So how does it work? It's okay, Betsy, you can go back. Next slide. So texting is script-based. The campaign has got it all figured out. It'll start with an initial message with a question. So and you'll send that message out, and then the voter will reply. Your role as a texter is to establish a connection with the voter, to get information from them, which we then communicate back to the campaign, and also to provide information to the voter as a public service. You'll see here my master texter is working on a laptop. That's how I prefer to text. I don't recommend that you text on your phone. And even a tablet, unless you have a keyboard, working with a tablet is going to be difficult. I highly recommend you use a computer or a laptop. Next slide. So a conversation will go something like this. This is a volunteer recruitment campaign, and the first outgoing message might look something like, "Hi, John. This is Andy with Campaign for Democracy. Are you willing to volunteer to help elect Democrats this election?" And that message goes out. And then maybe John replies and he writes back, he says, "Well, maybe, what would I be doing?" And then you answer that question. There are lots of ways to get involved: door knocking, sending texts, making calls. Can I send you a link to sign up in your local area? And then John says, "Okay, sure." And then you reply back, "Thank you, John. Please visit www, get involved for opportunities to volunteer." And that's the end of the conversation. Now, all of these communications are scripted. They're pre-typed out. It's a matter of like pointing and clicking to pre-fill the text box before you send. So it's really very simple. There are sometimes when you might want to edit a reply to make it more natural and in context with what the voter has replied to you. So you can do that. But for the most part, we're encouraged to follow the scripts pretty closely. Next slide. Now here's an example of another conversation. I might say, "Hi, John. This is Andy with the Harris-Walz campaign. Can we count on your vote in November?" And the reply comes back, "No, I'm voting for Trump." And then we simply close the conversation politely. "Thank you for letting me know." Next slide. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little live texting. I'm going to share my screen so you see everything that I'm doing. Let's see. And I want you to know that the Campaign for Democracy is working with batches of 500. So the first thing I'm going to do is I go to this program called Discord, and I find my texting links, which look like this. I'm going to click on it, and it opens up. This is the texting tool. It's called Spoke. I'm going to have to send 500 outgoing messages before I start getting responses back. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to ask a couple of our team members to talk to you about their experience working with Campaign for Democracy over the past few weeks. It'll take me maybe a minute or two to send all of the outgoing texts, and then you can watch me as I interact with the replies that come in. So, Susan, do you want to go ahead? And don't forget to unmute yourself.
Okay. So I've been texting actually started texting back in, I think, 2017, 2018. And there's all kinds of experiences that you get to have. I think for me, one of the things is that you just reach so many voters at once. And most of the time, you're not sitting there arguing with people. You're not trying to convince anyone of anything. But a lot of times, what we're doing is, we might be recruiting volunteers. We might be um, trying to gauge who the supporters are and weed out the ones that aren't, so that as it gets closer to the election, you're really getting a targeted list of people that you know are supportive, and you can remind them to vote. So you can remind people to register to vote, get them, all the polling locations so they know where to go, and get them out there. And I would say it's a very positive experience. Not that you don't occasionally have people that are rude, but you'll get that anywhere. But I've had a really positive experience, and this Newsom texting that we're using right now has been great. Very little negativity so far, lots of positivity, lots of thank yous actually come from people because they know we're spending personal time, we're volunteering, we're doing this stuff. They know we're a real person, and so it's something that's certainly has made me feel like I've been able to make a contribution and been able to reach voters directly. And it's been, I would say, for the most part, very inspiring and something that I've really enjoyed doing. And I think you guys will as well. And don't be discouraged. There are a little, you got to sometimes it takes a little bit of time to learn how to do something new. That's normal. So don't worry about that. It takes a little bit of time to get used to it. It takes a little bit of time to do these clicks, but Andy just did it while I was talking. She sent out 500 text messages, and now I'll turn it back over to you, and you can talk about what happens next.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for that, Susan. So I don't know if you were able to read what the outgoing message was. It basically says, this is Andy with Campaign for Democracy. We're texting voters in Illinois and wondering if you'd be willing to volunteer to help elect Democrats this election. I'll be here waiting for your reply. So it says I've finished my batch of 500. I'm going to say I'm done sending new messages right now. I'm going to wait to see who writes back. And you see, I have a response. So let's see what this guy says. So this is an older conversation that I was having with someone. I'll scroll up and you can read. In the white text box is my communication out, and the blue is what the voter has replied to me. So I sent out my initial text, and he says, "Sure, I will help if you provide transportation from Pennsylvania, where I live." So I am supposedly contacting a voter in Illinois, but this voter doesn't live in Illinois. He lives in Pennsylvania. So I found the scripted reply for a voter that has moved. And I said, "Thank you for letting me know. Did you move from Illinois? If so, please make sure you've updated your voter registration." He says, "No, I've always lived in Pennsylvania." So then I'm thinking, well, maybe it's a wrong number. So I said, "Do we have a wrong number? Are you Chad?" So this is just me typing. This was not a scripted reply, but I had a suspicion that it was a wrong number. And he says, "No, I'm not Chad." So I tag the conversation that we've reached a wrong number, so the campaign wants to know that. And then I send the scripted reply for a wrong number. Thanks for letting me know. I'll note that you're not Chad. If you don't mind me asking, do you support Democrats? Because remember, we're looking for volunteers. That's the primary aim of this campaign. He says that's too personal. So now it's my turn. I'm going to find a scripted reply that closes the conversation. He's not interested in volunteering, and the campaign knows it's a wrong number anyway. So I'm going to just click on, I'll go back there so you can see what I did. The primary question is, will they commit to volunteer? And to choose a reply, you click this button here. And here are the responses to that primary question. It can be yes, it can be maybe, it can be no, or it can be later. This is a no. So I'm just going to select no. And the reply that will go out and populate into my text box is, I understand. Thank you for your time. To guide you in other conversations, there's a whole host of what they call canned responses down here. In the eventuality you are having a different kind of conversation with the voter. And before you begin your texting session, you'll want to go through these to just familiarize yourself a little bit with all of the possible scripted replies. So some people are already volunteering, in which case we thank them, for what they're doing. We have ways to just close a conversation, whether they're positive or whether it's neutral. We have replies for all kinds of scenarios. A couple of rather, dire messages. I've never had to use one of these. If a voter asks about Newsom's endorsement of Harris or his response to Tim Walz, we can select these, and so on and so forth. Responses if people have moved, responses if they ask, how did you get my number, et cetera, et cetera. It's really, really very well populated. But in this case, we're simply going to thank the voter for replying that he doesn't want to volunteer, and that's that. So the message shows up here. I understand. Thank you for your time. And then I click send, and it's gone. I have another reply. So this person says she's not able to volunteer. So I'm going to say, I understand. Thank you for your time, and click send. This person cannot due to health issues. So I'm going to select the volunteer no, and thank you for your time. Another person who's having health issues. Okay, here's one. What do we do with this? First of all, I'm not saying we didn't mention Kamala in our outgoing message at all, but clearly they have an opinion. So there is a scripted reply. They're not going to volunteer if that's what they come back to. So I'm going to select the volunteer no. And that tells the campaign that Ava is not going to be a volunteer. But I'm going to change the outgoing message to something more appropriate to this reply. And it's in the scripted messages. And it is called refused or hostile. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Have a good day. Okay, here's another one. 3 of us are voting all for the Democrats. So that's good information to know. All of the people that we're contacting in this campaign are likely Democratic voters. So we can tell the campaign through these manual tags that That's actually true in this case. We can say this person supports Democrats. We save the manual tag, and then we have to find a reply that works with this. 3 of us are all voting for the Democrats. They didn't answer the volunteer question, so I'm going to ask the volunteer question again. And for this, I hand type a reply. I'm going to say, that's great. Are you, and then I'm going to ask the question again. Are you willing to volunteer at least, not even say at least once? And send that, and we'll see what we get back. Okay, this person says, I vote, but I do not volunteer for anything with elections. Okay, that's really clear. Remove my information from your list. So I'm going to say volunteer no. That tells the campaign this person is never going to volunteer. But they've asked me to take their name off the list, which is the same thing as stop. And we're legally bound to honor that request. We always opt out when they ask to be opted out. And we opt out with this button right here. Can you see that? I'm not quite sure what you see.
We can see it.
Okay, great. So it's this opt out button. And I have an option of sending a standard message, which is, I'm opting you out of text immediately. Have a nice day. Or not sending a message at all, which I always use when someone says, never contact this number again. In this case, I'm happy to send this message. And then their number is taken off the list and they'll never be contacted by our organization again. Salamea says, I vote, but I do not volunteer for anything with elections. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the one I just replied to. I forgot to send it. Okay, that is it. Those are all the replies. And I can click, I'm done for now. If I get more replies, they'll show up right here. But if I have to go cook dinner or pick my daughter up from daycare, I can release all of my texts, which takes them out of my personal queue and it puts them into a general pool where other volunteers texting for Campaign for Democracy will just pick them up and continue the conversation seamlessly. So texting is really awesome. If you have bits of time in your day, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes here or there, and then you're going to jump up and you can leave, rest assured that the rest of your team is going to continue the work and the voter will never know. So I am going to release my texts now. We've gotten a kind of a good smattering of potential replies that you might encounter. And I'm going to end the live demo for now. So Betsy, you can take over screen sharing again. And if Kate Linforth is here, Kate, could you unmute yourself and say a few words about your work with Campaign for Democracy?
Hi there, everybody. I usually make calls, and that's very good, but I started texting one day. I went to one of our action days and did the sign up for the texting and started doing that. And I'm here to tell you that this campaign is kind of amazing, that Newsom is organized. What are we up to? Like, we're on the brink of having recruited 100,000 volunteers. And I think it's 10 million texts we've sent. All those clicks is the 10 million, right? To get to the 500. And then some come back and some say, screw you, love Trump or whatever. And you just opt them out. And then a whole bunch say yes. and it's amazing. And they give you all kinds of words of encouragement, which is, it adds a human element to it, which makes it a lot more fun. And I can do it while I work all day long. And there was a couple of functional things that I just wanted to throw out. One is, did you say, Andy, about clicking on, it's like once you've gone through your responses, there's a box up there that says responses. Then there's an option to just respond to texts that other people had to walk away from. So I usually start with that and go through ones that, because they need responses quicker. So I'll start with those, and then, and there'll be a lot of them. You can sort of pick up where the other person left off. Andy, can I say a couple of other functional things potentially? And then you can tell me if it's too much.
I'd like to kind of keep this high level for now.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was just going to say that you can maybe mention about, well, one thing I'll ask a question about the tags to understand those better. I'd love a little bit more clarity about that. But then also what you do when they are already volunteering by saying no and then cutting and pasting the already voting thing. But at any rate, I think texting is amazing, and I'm so glad that you all are going to join us. We'll get it up to 200,000 volunteers in swing states.
Thanks so much, Kate. Yeah. I saw a brief question go by in the chat about this volunteer campaign. And yes, it's true. We're working on attracting volunteers right now. That's the important work to happen between now and the convention, and certainly by Labor Day. But after Labor Day, the work is going to shift to getting out the vote and mobilizing voters. So, yeah. All right. Let's see, where are we in our, next step. Take the next step. How do you get started? That's right. Betsy, can you share your screen again, and let's take a look at that. Okay, so to get started with Campaign for Democracy, you'll go to this website, campaignfordemocracy.com/text. And there you'll follow simple instructions to view training videos, getting the onboarding information. The campaign will ask you to take a final quiz so that you demonstrate that you understand the most important aspects of working on behalf of the campaign. And then you'll find the links to get started texting. This program is the most well-supported I've ever encountered. The training is very, very good. They're there to answer any questions that you have, as are we. So if you run into any speed bumps and you're not able to get over them, we're here to help and support you to get you started in your texting. You can just email us at info@indivisibleMarin.org. Next slide. So that is it. That's the presentation. And I see a lot of comments in the chat. So Susan, maybe have you been able to monitor them and can do readouts?
Yes, I can. And just briefly, hi everyone, I'm Susan Morgan. I'm the founder of IndiMarin, and just want to explain a bit about the relationship between Gavin Newsom's Campaign for Democracy and Indivisible Marin. You know, we're a small group as grassroots organizations go. We now have about 6,000 members with 40% out of state, but still in the grand scheme, that is small. So the way that we do voter outreach tactics like this is we piggyback on larger, well-funded programs, and we carefully vet those programs to make sure we're recommending to our volunteers the best way to get involved in texting or the best way to get involved in phone banking. So that's what we've done here. And as Andy has explained, this program, which is started by Gavin Newsom, but is not about Gavin Newsom. He has started a national effort called Campaign for Democracy. And he's been in the texting world a long time. They're highly skilled. It's highly funded. You're going to have texts to send whenever you want, which is unusual. There's a lot of texting programs out there. You want to text, you go, oh, sorry, we don't have any texts today. So just want to be clear that we're just a conduit, but then what we do is offer that personal support. So Andy and her team of mentors, you know, Kate, Susan Spitzer's here, there are other mentors. You write us at info@IndivisibleMarin with any questions or, hey, I could use a little extra support. You'll hear back from Andy and we'll provide you with that additional support, as well as the trained people at the Newsom campaign who do the actual training. So just kind of wanted to make that relationship clear. And we do have some.
So much for that. That was perfectly clear, and I failed to say that in the
No, you did not fail at anything. You covered all the the heart of it. So that's not the case. But anyway, we do have some good questions. I want to start with one that you kind of already addressed, but I'd really like to cover it in more detail about the phases of this campaign. So now it's volunteer recruitment, and do you have a sense right up into the election of the various phases?
I believe we're working hard to recruit volunteers now. The aim is to contact every likely Democratic voter in all 50 states. So, we've done a lot. We still have a ways to go, and our volunteer teams are growing. So we're moving faster and faster. I think the hope is that will be done before the convention. If not before the convention, certainly by Labor Day. After Labor Day, we're going to be switching to amplifying messaging that comes out of the convention, and then getting out the vote and mobilizing volunteers.
Great. Thank you for that. Kate asked a question, Kate Linforth, who we heard from, and one of our longtime and fabulous volunteers, asked about you guys are recruiting all these volunteers in huge numbers, which is amazing. Can you explain a bit, Andy, about how those volunteers are then plugged into the actual work? How do we know that they're actually going to end up helping the cause?
Right. So the work that Campaign for Democracy is doing is run state by state. Today, we were working in Illinois. When someone says that they're going to volunteer, we send them a link that goes to a Mobilize that's hosted by or run by the state Democratic Party. So then the state Democratic Party has all of their volunteer events listed, and the voter can search by their own specific community. So they're really trying to dial in on where the voter is, and so that the voter can connect with a local volunteer effort.
Great. And Betsy's raising a point that maybe you could elaborate on a bit, Andy, is when people are actually doing their texting and get stuck on something, Betsy's highlighting that there is real-time support that you can get through Discord. Do you want to maybe elaborate about that a bit?
Yes, exactly. I forgot to show that part more specifically also. So the black screen that I went to when I first began the live demonstration was a program called Discord. It's an online community gathering spot, and it is moderated 12 hours a day by Campaign for Democracy organizers and moderators. So if you encounter anything that it runs outside of the scripted responses or replies and you have a question, you just hop over to Discord and you pose the question. They have the means to look at the conversation if they need to read through what, the back and forth that's gone on so far. And then they just reply right there and tell you what to do. So you're never like left hanging. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this? And that's, one thing I really love about texting is that I never feel like I'm caught out without an answer. And anyway.
Yes, and that's so important. And this may, I just want to also address that this may sound like a lot, right? A lot of words you never heard, like what's Discord and what's this and this. And we just wanted to stress this is designed not as a training. So if you feel like, oh, I don't know how to text yet, that's okay, because we didn't train you to text yet, right? This is really just a way for you to look under the hood a little, give you, because a lot of people don't understand. They think they do texting on their phone, and there's a lot of things people don't get unless you have a bit of an introduction. So that's what we wanted to do here. And for those of you who, based on this introduction, you think you want to give it a try, then you'll sign up with the Campaign for Democracy, and they will do a very formal hands-on training. And that's where you'll really get comfortable with the various terms and platforms. But it is true that you have to be fairly tech proficient. You don't have to be a tech whiz. But if you, say, are uncomfortable keeping multiple windows open on your laptop at the same time, that is something that might be a little bit of a flag that this might not be for you. But never hurts to try, right? Let's see, I've got some more kind of logistical questions. Someone's asking, can we choose where we text?
So not with this campaign. If you don't want to text into West Virginia for some reason, and they're working in West Virginia that day, then you won't text that day. But they are running through their lists state by state, and at least you see where you're texting. I have to say the texting in Illinois is not quite as joyful as it was into some other states. But yeah, we want to talk to everybody, right? And sometimes, you reach someone and who just says, oh my God, it's so great to hear from you. This is red, red, red right here. I don't have anyone to talk to. So, but no, you don't get to choose where you're texting. We're texting in all 50 of these beautiful United States.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we, I'll generalize a little bit about the people who might be here, that we have the privilege of having time to volunteer and this kind of thing. But there's an epidemic of loneliness in our country. And often we think in our bubble, like, I hate all those text messages. I don't want people to call me on the phone. But you know what? There are a lot of people who welcome it. People who might live in a rural area or who are, for whatever reason, just the sound of a voice or a live person coming through a text makes their day, actually. And we're providing helpful information about voting. So you'd be surprised how many people are grateful. And I think it was Kate that was saying, or I'm not sure, Andy, lots of thank yous. And when you get in the people that are like, take me off your list, or I don't live here anymore, that's not a waste of your time, because you're cleaning up the data for the campaign, which makes the campaign more efficient as we get closer and closer. So that's really important. So there was someone that asked, let's see, hold on a second. Oh, I think we covered the phases. So it's basically volunteer recruitment, then get out the vote pretty much.
And amplifying Dem messaging that's going to come out of the convention.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had a good question. Where is it? About if you step away. Where is that? Or someone asked if we live in another state. It doesn't matter where you live. And also your number, nobody ever sees your phone number. This is all on a platform. Oh, here it is from Scott. After the batch is sent, how long should we stay available to respond? Do many responses come right away?
Most do. But, if you've only got 10 minutes to manage responses, you manage your responses, and then just make sure that you release your texts before you step away so that someone else picks up. The voter doesn't know that, it isn't Scott texting, but it's Marion from Maryland. Marion from Maryland just pretends she's Scott and she continues the conversation as if she were you.
Great. Jess, who arrived a bit late, is asking where she can get all the info she missed. And just so everyone knows, after any one of our Zoom meetings, we send a follow-up with a recording in case you want to watch it again or you want to share it with a friend. And we'll send you all the links you need to click for the training. We try to make it very easy, so don't stress about missing anything. There was a question that she had also. Oh, about are we specifically texting swing states?
No, we're texting likely Democratic voters in all 50 states. So obviously the campaign knows the importance of, engaging Democratic voters in swing states for the Electoral College. But we are mobilizing volunteers everywhere.
Great. Okay, there's a lot of questions pouring in, and they're quickies, so let's try to get through a bunch of them. Judy's wanting to clarify, it's okay to step away and sign back on 2 hours later, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you use a Chromebook?
Yes. I don't recommend that you use a phone. I don't recommend that you use a tablet unless you have a keyboard on the tablet. I recommend you use a computer or a laptop of whatever make.
Great. Does the use of Governor Newsom's name help hinder or distract from the effectiveness in other states? Does everyone know who Governor Newsom is?
There is a scripted response, and you do get a few replies that say, what is Newsom doing working in Illinois? The answer to that question is, I could guess what he might be aiming at in the next few years when he's done with his current job. But right now, the purpose of this campaign is to mobilize Democratic voters across the country. That's it.
Do you want me to share the texting webpage now? People are beginning to ask, is there a guide or anything? And I wondered if I...
Well, but I don't think our texting webpage is what they're looking for. I think maybe, Betsy, if you could put in the link to sign up, or Andy.
Here, I can do that. I'll drop it in the chat.
So Jess and any of you here who are like, yeah, I want to try this. The next step is to sign up on Newsom's Campaign for Democracy for a training. And
the link is on the webpage, right? The link is on our webpage.
The link is on our webpage.
That's why I wanted to show, just so that they could easily go to it.
All right, so go for it, Betsy. Why don't
Thank you.
Share our webpage.
I know.
And I'm also putting the link in the chat directly to...
Here's you join the texting team, which will means you get all the information that goes out about new texting campaigns. And here you go. Text with Campaign for Democracy right there. Big fat.
Yeah, and since you're on our webpage, Betsy, will you just show the top line of the Take Action pages? We our website is designed to be incredibly user-friendly. So if you're new to IndiMarin or haven't used our website much, all you need to do is remember Indivisible Marin would come up in a Google search. And then you go to this take action part on the nav bar, and there's a drop down, and you'll find whatever you want to do. If you want to phone, etc., you go to that page. We've got all the links you need. We've got detailed information. And if by any chance after you've read all that, you still have a question, then contact us. Those emails come to me. Either I answer them or someone on our team will answer you within 24 hours, usually less. So we're really trying to make everything easy and accessible for you guys. We want nothing more than to put you to work constructively, effectively, strategically, efficiently. So we'll be there for you, right? And texting might not be a fit for you after you try it. It may feel too techy. Then you can go back to our website, go to take action, and maybe you decide you want to write postcards, or maybe you want a phone bank, which is a little techy, but maybe not as techy. And I don't want to scare people away from texting, because it's not, if you're average on technology, you'll be fine. Anything else you want to say? I think we've covered the questions. Yeah, Kathy, we just put that link in right below your question. Oh, great question. Judy's asking, will we be having texting parties or group texting Zooms?
So we used to, a long time ago, gather together here in Marin County and max out Susan's
At my house. Judy remembers coming here.
And we've been on Zoom. If there's interest in like getting together at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and Zooming together, or even gathering in person, I am all for it. Happy to do it.
Yeah, it's an open door. We used to call my house the clubhouse, and I still think of it that way. But we're finding that a lot of people, now that we're all on Zoom, kind of are in their comfort zone, and they sort of actually don't want to have to drive, etc. I do want to get to a question I missed earlier from Doreen. She's asking about lists. So she's been working with a group called Call for Change. That's Sylvia Russell's group, I think, right? And she's asking if we're working off the same list or a different list. Okay, now I've got a whole bunch of questions. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on lists, because it's ridiculously complicated and unfortunate that there are these campaign finance rules that prevent certain types of groups. So the candidates and the party cannot, the legal word is coordinate, with groups that are called independent expenditure groups, which are the 501c4s and the PACs. So that's why when you're making phone calls and people say, I asked to be taken off the list, why haven't, well, you asked to be taken off that list, but I'm working on this list. And it's really unfortunate and annoys a lot of voters. But we just have to live with that system right now. Maybe if we win a trifecta and can change those crazy laws, we will. But for right now, there's a lot of list overlap, and that's just something we have to work through. And you just tell those voters, I'm so sorry. I know you're getting a lot of calls. I will take you off the list for Campaign for Democracy. I can't control what other list you're on. And if anyone needs to go, if these questions are no longer of interest, feel free to sign off. We will follow up, but all of us from IndiMarin will stay on as long as there are questions. Okay. Yeah, so Jess, the link is right below where you posted that. And we're going to follow up with an email so you have the link. Are any of the other IndiMarin people seeing questions? What about time differences? Does the program consider when others are available based on their time zones?
So if if it's outside of reasonable hours, the link to text in that state will not be available. You're not going to text somebody at midnight inadvertently.
Right. Okay, so just write us at info@indivisibleMarin.org. I'll get your email to Andy and she'll troubleshoot any problems you're having. It might take Newsom's people a little while to respond. I'm not sure, but we'll make sure you get situated. I think that might be it. Have I missed anything? Thanks, everyone. Adios, William. Do you know when the trainings are? How often are the trainings, Andy?
Well, so the link that we've communicated is a self-serve. It's a link to self-serve videos. You can watch them anytime you want.
I see.
If you prefer a live Zoom training, they do have those as well. And I am going to put a link to live Zoom trainings in the chat also.
Great. And just realize, you guys, we really do our best to support everyone, but it's helpful if you can be a bit resourceful as well. You know, y'all know how to navigate the internet, and we're giving you links. You might have to click around a little bit to find what you want. We'll always answer questions, but feel empowered to sign up. Come back to us if you have questions, but this isn't that complicated, you know, and you'll be fine. Once you get started, you'll start having fun, and we're here to back you up, moral support. We have a Slack group. If any of you are used to using Slack as your communication platform with texting moderators, we use that more as moral support. So it's a great place. And, you know, in our email follow-up, we'll invite you if you're not already in our Slack group. It's a great way you can ask questions of Andy, hear what other people are doing. Andy, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. It's our virtual meeting space. I try to have a look at it every single day, but I'm a volunteer with busy life too. And if you join our text team, you get a welcome letter from me that includes an invitation to join that Slack.
Yeah, so again, this is just a little taste. We're not leaving you here. You want to do this, we'll make sure you get situated and give it your best shot. But I think maybe that's all the questions. And
Okay.
thank you, Marie. A lot of people saying this is great. We will follow up with all the links you need. And, you know, Andy's talked about the results. The results are incredible, actually. The number of volunteers that have been recruited are results I've really honestly never heard in my 8 years of doing this kind of electoral work. And when you think about how successful they've been recruiting volunteers, that's just going to then morph into getting people to cast votes. And the lists are targeted, so we're reaching out to Democrats, but Democrats who may not be likely to vote. There's a whole world of Democrats who are disengaged. Those are the people that we're reaching out to try and make sure that we need every last Democrat to cast a ballot.
Okay, well,
okay, everyone.
Questions? Feel free to take off, and IndiMarin will stay on. Anyone else has anything else to say, you can drop it in the chat. Otherwise, have a really wonderful evening, and thank you for being here. Thank you so much.